So we're here with Professor Christine Nicol. In your career to date, you've been involved in and responsible for a number of leading research projects in the field of animal welfare. What do you consider to be your most significant achievement or contribution to date?
My most significant contribution to animal welfare, that's actually a really difficult question. I think really there's two different areas. One, I suppose I'm very proud of the work that I've done over many years now, decades actually, which has helped to lead to the ban on conventional cages for laying hens. So that started with my PhD when I was looking at what happened if a hen didn't have very much space, and did they ever get used to it, or did it get worse for them? And then I went on to looking at preference testing for hens, how much did different things matter, and sat on endless panels discussing how much things mattered to chickens, legal issues, and finally we see a ban coming in across the whole of Europe, which for me is a huge achievement, although obviously I was only one part of a number of people. Scientifically, I think my biggest achievement has been to link the preferences that animals have with the welfare indicators that we take, and that's never been done before. So really there are two approaches to animal welfare science. One is that people measure things that they think are relevant. So they take measures of stress hormones, or bruises, or feather loss. And the other thing people do is ask the animals what they want. Now, nobody before has brought those two approaches together, and I think scientifically, starting with our paper in 2009, that's probably been one of my biggest contributions to animal welfare science. So,
thank you, that's great. So your current research looks at the capacity of birds to experience pain. What motivated you to study birds, and do you think birds are widely accepted as sentient creatures?
I'm going to answer the bit what encouraged me to start studying birds, and that really came not so much from a general interest in birds, but from an interest in intensive farming. And I've always been concerned about agricultural practices. I think the animals that we eat don't get as much attention actually as the animals that are used in experimentation. The numbers are so huge. And when I got a chance to do a PhD, it turned out to be a PhD on chickens, and so I've always been interested in chickens. Now, chickens are not generally considered to be the most intelligent birds that there are, but nonetheless, you know, our work and the work of others has shown that chickens are extremely complex. Cognitively, they're extremely complex, and I think that it's very difficult to deny that. The evidence is there, and it's clear. The second part of your question is whether birds are generally accepted to be sentient, and I think that's a little bit more of a difficult question. They certainly have the types of brains that would support sentience. They have structures that are absolutely analogous to the cerebral cortex of humans. It looks different, the palladium looks different from the cortex, but functionally there's very many similarities. So there's every reason to think that they have that basic capacity. That doesn't mean that they have it in the same way that mammals do, and I do think there are differences between mammals and birds, and I think one of the primary differences is that mammals are far more social creatures. Birds form groups, sometimes some species of birds form pair bonds, and hens certainly bond with their chicks, but their social lives, I think, are very much less emotional. I think mammals have a combination of social complexity with emotional complexity that birds don't have. So, do birds have primary consciousness? Do they feel pain, etc.? I would certainly like to vote yes. We can never know, but I would vote yes for birds. Do they have the complexity of social emotional life that mammals do? Probably not.
Thank you. So how important do you think it is to understand animal sentience in order to improve animal welfare?
I think it's important to understand animal sentience to improve animal welfare. At one level, it's the only question. If if animals are not sentient, then we're all wasting our time. You know, we might as well be joining some architectural heritage society and just protecting them because they're pretty or something. So animal sentience is really the core reason why any of us care about animal welfare. So at one level, it's the only reason. But I don't think it's as important as some people think. I think that because it's one of those questions where we will continue to debate it for decades to come, and we're not going to get a quick answer about it, I think we have to have other mechanisms of moving forward and improving animal welfare that don't rely on us being able to prove animal sentience questions. I think we should carry on discussing them, but I certainly think we should try to move forward in improving animal welfare, and I see signs of that all over the world, that people are. I think on the whole, once people understand that animals are more complex than maybe they first thought, they are willing to give animals the benefit of the doubt, and I think that's a good approach, up to the point where you get real conflicts of interest. And I would not want a debate about the sentience of worms to overtake, perhaps, you know, the decision about whether we should be worming horses or sheep or something like that for their own benefits. So sometimes common sense has to come into play. Maybe worms have a very primitive sentience, but I still want to worm my horse and keep my horse healthy, and I don't want to get into that level of dispute. So on the other hand, if I see a worm on the ground, I'm not going to just tread on it. So I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt when I can, but not when there's a conflict between two different types of species. I don't know if that makes much sense.
Absolutely. And so lastly, what do you think the future of animal sentience research holds?
I think we're going to move forward very quickly now with research into animal cognition. So research about animal learning capacities, the complexity of their complex cognition, you know, how they find their way around, whether they appreciate that things still exist when they're no longer in sight, and memory capacities. I think all of these things are moving forward rapidly, and what I see in the near future is that interesting work that's been done on mammals will start to be expanded out, and we will start looking at those capacities in a far wider range of species, and getting a bigger understanding really of cognitive complexity throughout the animal kingdom. I think we may also, I'm hopeful that we may also perhaps come to some more agreed definitions of what we mean by animal sentience, and perhaps stop viewing it just as this all or nothing capacity. If we can come up with sort of different categories, perhaps, you know, we're talking here maybe about emotional capacities, social complexity, the cognitive abilities that I've just talked about, and perhaps I think research on the neural correlates of human consciousness, that those aspects will tie in together, and I think we will start to get a better understanding in that way. But I see things moving forward most quickly on the animal cognition research, and most slowly on the neural correlates of consciousness, where I think it'll be way beyond my lifetime before we really get a grip on that. But yeah.
Thank you very much.
That's
It's a really
okay.
inspirational interview.
Thank you
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Helen.